Welcome back to Party Trick Astrology. I'm Nina.
And I'm Shaina.
And this is the beginning of our house series.
Yes.
Starting from the very beginning.
We're starting from the beginning this time.
A very good place to start.
Yes.
Actually, usually we don't.
Whatever. Yeah. But this time it makes a lot more sense. This is our house series. This is our first house / ascendant video. They mean the same thing. Your rising sign, your ascendant sign, your first house. It's all the same.
But your ascendant is the cusp of your first house. So you can't have planets in your ascendant, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you have planets in your first house. Your ascendant is the first house cusp.
Yes.
That little arrow that you see, if you get it, if a chart on astro.com or astro theme, little arrow that points to the sign, that's your first house, that is your ascendant, and then what's held in that little bubble is your planets.
Sometimes you have more than one sign in your first house, maybe even up to 3 if you have an interception, but that cusp is your first house ruler.
Yeah.
Right, so we're getting a bit more advanced into this kind of topic, getting into the houses, which is why we are offering an astrology course / masterclass. So if these videos you're feeling like you're not getting absolutely everything that you need, we really recommend that you get our astrology course, which will be starting as soon as this series is over. We did want to make this series public for everyone to see because
it's a great thing for you to know. It's a great thing to search. We want it on our channel publicly.
100%. So we wanted to make it available for everyone.
If you check out the video that we'll link down below, it'll say more about the astrology course. It'll say more about the price. It'll say more information about it. The giveaway though, we have not closed yet because we pushed back, because originally we were going to start the astrology course during the house series, but then we thought it would be smarter to do it after it was over, so you know all this information going in and we can refer to these videos. So it'll be starting later and the giveaway is still open, but all the other information remains the same. So if you want to look into it, we'd really recommend it. It's going to be super fun and we're very excited.
And this series is totally supplemental to that. But let's get into the first house.
Yes. So the first house is who you are on the outside, right? It is that shell, right? Even if you don't have a Cancer rising like we do, it is still a shell. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's your mask.
It's your mask that you wear. It's when your family looked at you and they held you for the first time, they went, this baby is like blank.
Yeah.
It's kind of how what your family kind of put on you when you immediately came out. Kind of like the expectations of you that people see when they first meet you.
It's your first impression. So a lot of times you'll notice that your relationship to your sun and your first house has a lot to do with how you feel like your first impressions come across. We do not
have seen by others.
We do not have very good relationships with our ascendant and our suns. Mine is in conjunct.
My sun is opposite my ascendant.
So with people with this kind of relationship with your ascendant, you can feel like you're not really trying to be any type of way, and suddenly people peg you as XYZ. And you feel like that doesn't align.
And that's true with kind of any negative aspect to the ascendant. That's going to be those things that you get that you feel like people put this thing on me and it's not true. Like if you have Neptune opposite ascendant, people might put like those Neptune qualities onto you that aren't true. Or if you have your moon squaring your ascendant, you'll find that your moon felt like it wasn't allowed to be shown on the outside because it's wrong in society for some reason, or it was denied in you, right? Then if you have a positive aspect, that means that those are reinforced. Those are the things that you're like, yeah, Jupiter is trying my ascendant. People think I have a big personality. I'm a bubbly gal. What can I do? You know what I mean?
So it's just an extra like jacket that you throw on. It's kind of like first impression jacket. You know, you always dress up to make first impressions, right? The planets that you have in there also add an extra flavor beyond just your first house ruler. If you have planets, it's totally normal not to have planets.
Yeah, so we have a whole series, actually, if you haven't watched it, on the ascendant rulers. Like if you're a Scorpio rising, if you're a Cancer rising, if you're an Aries rising, we have all of those. So whatever rising sign you are, house ruler wise, we have a video on that.
And a skit.
On that. So definitely check out your corresponding video if you haven't. For all the other houses, we don't have that yet, but for first house, we do. But like Nina said, you can have planets in there, and we got a lot of comments on those rising sign videos about, I have Saturn in my first house, but I'm a Pisces rising, but I relate to the Capricorn rising. Does that make sense? Is that true? It's true in certain terms, because you still are a Pisces rising.
Yeah.
And the way that the planets color that still has that Capricorn influence, but it's still through that Pisces lens.
Yeah,
you know?
just need to, you're an entire chart, so you have to integrate those two things and see how it rings true for you, which is why there's professional astrologers who do readings to do specifically that. You can't really do that in just one video, or our astrology course, so that you can learn to do that yourself.
Yeah, we talk obviously a lot about first house in our Ascendant series, yes. When I watch horoscope videos, at least from most astrologers, they talk about houses, and they talk about that stuff. Even though I have a Capricorn stellium, I go off of my Cancer rising because most of the things will align. So I would recommend, I want to say this in this video, if you're watching I was watching Modern Cosmics horoscope videos, and she says Cancer Sun, but what she's really talking about is if you're a Cancer rising. So I would, just a little thing, I would highly recommend, even if, for me, I obviously think that I relate to my Cancer rising, but I relate a lot more to Capricorn energy in different aspects. But I'm always going to check out my Cancer rising, because as much as it is the ruler view, it's kind of how you look around the world. You know what I mean? It's not how you look at yourself, but it's how you look at the world in a certain way, or how the world looks at you.
Yeah, it is. So I have a little antidote to share, because I'm a Cancer rising. If you don't already know, we both are. And something that really rang true to me was in Alyssa Sharp's series. She talked about, you come out of the womb. The 12th house is your prenatal life. And because the chart is a circle, it happens before the first house. So your prenatal life happens in the 12th house, and we'll get into that when we get into our 12th house video. And then you're born, and immediately your family, your mom, the doctors have a first impression of you, and you have no real control over that, or at least someone like me that has their sun in conjunct their ascendant really feels like they have no control over that kind of first impression. My mom would sing to me this song. I'm Brazilian, so it's not going to translate 100% in English, but I was born very dark-skinned, dark hair, and I cried a lot because I was a baby. And so when I was crying, my mom would sing to me, brown-haired girl with the water eyes, take your eyes out of the water, come see how beautiful life is, something like that. And she would also call me, and this isn't going to translate super well, moon face, cara de lua in Portuguese, which is a lot sweeter when you say cara de lua, but moon face is kind of weird. And that, I was so flabbergasted when I put those two together, because I'm a Cancer rising, and Cancer is ruled by the moon, and my mom was really like, girl with water eyes, moon face. And so if you have any kind of relationship to that you can see yourself, what your family immediately put on you. If you have a Capricorn rising, perhaps you were immediately known to be a really good baby. The baby didn't cry. Very good.
High expectations for
easy,
the child.
Easy baby.
And also the first house, what we should mention, is an angular house.
Yes.
There are also cadent houses and succeedent houses, but the angular houses are kind of the building blocks of the person, the foundation of the person. It's the first house, the fourth house, the seventh house, and the 10th house. Those are all cardinal houses. For example, first house is ruled by Aries. So Aries is really happy in the first house, but something like Libra, which is the opposite, which rules over the 7th house, is not happy in the first house. That doesn't mean that you're gonna hate being a Libra rising. That just means it's not as natural.
Yeah. And to kind of give you perspective of why these angular houses are so important, it's the house of identity. I don't think we even said that. We said first impressions. The house of identity, yourself. It's Aries, so it's very me, and me first. The 4th house, the house of family and home. 7th house, the house of relationships. 10th house, the house of careers.
And public persona.
Public persona.
Yeah.
So
those are kind of the 4 different yous, if you think about it in that way.
And they are really the pillars of everybody's life. We found that doing birth charts, and psychics I'm sure can relate, we're not psychics, tarot readers, anything that you do where you're telling someone about their life, people will always ask.
Right.
Pretty much career and relationships. Sometimes family. And
obviously they're asking about themselves.
They're obviously asking about themselves. So that really paints a picture of these really being the 4 pillars of human life.
And kind of like the 4 things that we want more. We want the most. You know what I mean? Obviously, having a stellium in any house is going to cause concentration on that area. But, like, for example, let's do stellium in the first house. I know a few people with this, and it can be a great thing and also a really hard thing. Because the good thing about it is that if you have these positive planets in the first house, you're going to be more likable, you have more flair, you have more thing. Like, if you have, like, all these energies influencing people, are like, wow, what a big person, what an interesting personality. Even if it's negative things, it can be like,
or great first impression.
What an interesting personality.
Or just
you know
intriguing.
I mean? But it can also cause such a focus on who you are and how you come across to people, and you can become so obsessed with your image and all that stuff that you've kind of, I find that people kind of forget to develop other parts of themselves because they're so focused on developing that forefront that it can put other things to the back burner.
Yeah.
Like we said, most of the time it's a positive thing in a lot of ways. I think it's nice to have something influencing your first house a little bit because it can kind of make you stand out a little bit more, make you kind of more memorable, because it's not only the Sag rising, it's the Sag rising with Pluto in the first. It's not only the Cancer rising, it's Cancer rising with Mars in the first. You know what I mean? It kind of adds a little bit of a different flair. It kind of naturally, I think, puts you outside of a box that most people are put in when they're just like a plain Cancer rising.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It also depends very much the nature of the sign that's ruling your house, the nature of the planets that are in your first house.
How positively or poorly aspected they are.
And the relationship of your sun to those planets, because your sun is your ego and your first house is your identity.
Yeah.
So, for example, we have a friend that is a Sagittarius with the Sagittarius rising and lots of personal Sagittarius planets in the first house. This guy is very likable, very great first impression.
Everybody knows him naturally.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to do much, but people know or aware.
Yeah, and he's also, Sagittarius is the planet of expansion. He's a big guy, a strong guy, tall, and very likable. Say that you have someone who is an Aries with a Capricorn rising, those two square, and then lots of people with Capricorn risings in our generation have planets in the first house.
Uranus, Jupiter, something of that sort.
Even Saturn.
Yeah.
And also, the first house, whatever planet is in the first house, is going to be very easily expressible. With Tyler, our Sagittarius friend, those planets are very expressible in a very natural, like his sun is expressible and his Venus.
Is this expressible a word? You said it so many.
It's a word now.
Expressive?
Well, yeah, it's expressive. It's easily able to be expressed, therefore expressible. I like the word.
You can use it. I don't care what you say. I was just laughing at it.
And it's very natural and charming and easy because it's so connected to his ego identity and not just his perceived identity. And then say that someone with an Aries ego then has Saturn and Capricorn and Neptune and Uranus. That's all being very expressed, but the person might not have as much awareness that they're expressing that, or might not be as comfortable or purposefully expressing those things. So particularly Uranus, for example, in the first house is a little off-putting to some because it's a very strong planet, and it's kind of like it's the Aquarian planet, so it can easily rub people the wrong way with the progressiveness and the kind of like
awkwardness that it kind of brings as well.
Yeah. So that kind of person might have a harder time. Now say that you're an Aquarius sun and your Uranus is in the first house. It's going to be a little more purposeful because that kind of expression is already aligned with who you feel like you are. We also have a friend who is a Libra rising with Mars and Libra in the first house, and it's one of the funniest expressions because she's so
there's a juxtaposition there,
and nice, but then she'll get very heated
and burst out, and that Mars energy will come out.
But then it's also in Libra, so it's like, oh, just kidding. No, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Also with first house planets, you should know malefic planets. Like what are the harder malefic planets, and kind of the easier ones. Like think of like Venus. Like Venus automatically you think of, if somebody has Venus in the first house, they're going to be so charming, it's going to be great, all is going to be good. But you have to look at what sign it's in and the aspects it's making. Because let's say it's in Virgo and it's squaring a bunch of stuff, that's going to mean that that Venus shows a lot, but it's not pretty. It's not a good, it's kind of an awkward charm maybe. Neptune's a malefic planet. But let's say it's in its happiest sign. Like let's say it's in like Pisces or something and it's so positively aspected. It still comes with its hardships because it is malefic, but people are more open to it. People are going to be more, you get more of the positive aspects of Neptune kind of portrayed. Even Saturn in the first, if it's a happy Saturn, you can get the benefits from it more than the negative aspects of it. So just because you might have something that you think is bad or good, you really have to look into it more. And also there's no bad or good, whatever.
Yeah,
okay.
It's very integrated. You need to see the integration of it. Marilyn Monroe famously has Neptune in the first house. She's adored. I mean, it's also, she's a Leo rising, I believe, so obviously she's adored, idealized. She had a very hard life. She dealt with body issues because she was a more curvy girl, and you know, there's things talking about plastic surgery that she had to go through possibly to fit the mold. Obviously she dyed her hair, and also her death is so
mystical,
like,
mysterious
and kind of like romanticized.
Yeah, romanticized.
You know, so your struggles if you have Neptune in the first house can be romanticized. And depending on your relationship to your sun, your ego, your personal planets to that, you can purposefully be romanticizing that kind of stuff.
Yes.
You can purposefully be like, smoke weed every day, it's the best.
I'm just a victim, save me. Oh, what am I doing today? You don't know. I'm mysterious.
But then if it's not in good relationship, if it's an inconjunct, a square, opposition, then you can feel like other people are like, you need to be saved, baby.
Yeah.
I'll save you.
Maybe you're pushing religion on you, you're pushing spirituality, you're pushing stuff that you don't want, you know what I mean? Saying you're an enigma and you don't want that.
Yeah, stop.
We also haven't touched on Pluto in the first house is very intense. If you put Pluto in the first house of any rising, it will automatically make somebody get respect and stuff. A positive Pluto will usually be a lot better expressed, and then a negatively aspected Pluto will be seen as like the bad guy, or like, ooh, you're power hungry, blah, blah, blah. Or a positive Pluto might be like, you just might do weird stuff to just seem mysterious. But it will add a darkness, it will add a lot of turbulence in your life, it will add a lot of intense things. Yeah,
it's being expressed. So that aspect of your life, the destruction
and the darkness, and your secrecy is right on display.
Planet-wise, whatever is in your first house, it's super prevalent to your life because it's right there. It's the first thing.
You can't escape it no matter what. You are facing your first house every second of every day.
It's not happening in your home. It's not happening in your career. It's not happening in your friends. You know how people are like, God, I can't get a break from myself.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like to have a planet in your first house.
Or if you were like, why do people, like, as a child I always be like, why do people treat this person this way naturally and this person this way naturally and me like this? And it is very much because people see that first house and we are pretty judgmental creatures, and so we just go off of that. You know what I mean?
So we talked about a few planets, specifically, I think we touched on most of the malefic ones of how they might be in your first house, and you'll get kind of an idea of how to integrate that if you take our astrology course. But we're just going to touch on the other ones that we haven't yet. So Mercury.
Yeah, Mercury. So this is going to make you kind of like a little bit more of a nerd than most whatever of your rising.
Your
a little
intellect
bit more
is on display.
Intellect, smarter. You want to talk more. You will get very offended if anybody calls you dumb. You constantly are like, I need to be seen as a smart, intellectual individual. And I was thinking, like somebody that I know has like a poorly aspected Mercury in the first, like very smart girl, but she's black, and I think that it's been put there because she didn't want that thought that like, oh, she wanted to be seen as like a smart, well-educated black girl because of the stereotype in society, and so that's why like I think her Mercury was placed there.
Yeah, so it's happening in the first house because it is more put on. It's a conscious decision to make that be known of your personality. Just because you don't have Mercury in the first house does not mean that you're not smart.
No.
It's just about
that you want to show people that you're smart.
Or it's what people
see in you. Right. Or like if you have a poorly aspected Mercury in a bad sign, people might think you're dumb a lot, even. You know what I mean? And you're constantly trying to prove that you're not. And it can also make you want to be more put together, a little bit more neurotic, a little bit more nitpicky about things or by your people that you're surrounded with. Moon in the first is very much your mom emotionally nurtured you, for better or for worse. Maybe it's poorly aspect intercepted and she like yelled at you a lot, put her emotions on you a lot, or maybe it's well aspected and you always ran to your mom and she always gave you all that.
Yeah, or the way that you grew up, you found out that the way that people respond to you the best is being kind, being maternal.
Be nice to everybody, treat everybody like they're your own kid almost, and you want to be the mom wherever you go.
This can also kind of relate a bit like Cancer rising. If you watch a Cancer rising video, that might be a little relevant to you. I notice that whenever I'm in like an Uber or anything, my voice goes, "Hi."
Yes.
Good.
Oh, I'm great, yeah.
Yeah, I'm so feminine and sweet.
Yeah. We touched on Venus for a second. Venus is just a very charming thing.
Yes.
Very beautiful. You were told you were a beautiful baby.
And I find that with Venus, like more than just speaking to the way that your Venus behaves, in the house, it speaks to kind of it blessing the house. Whatever house that your Venus is in, it's kind of blessing your house. So it's blessing your appearance, your first impression.
Unless it's poorly aspected, then it might create an obsession about looking beautiful, and you need to look beautiful. And everybody's like, you do, and you're like, no, you know what I mean? It just depends. Mars in the first house, very assertive, people will find you very like overwhelming when you're not trying to be. You want to greet everybody, you want to say hi to everybody, you want to make your presence known. You're very just naturally have an excitable energy in you.
And it can also be like aggressive, and that can be purposeful or not. It also has a lot to do with the sign that your Mars is in.
More masculine frame, more masculine sharp points to you, more masculine body, people are naturally more fit.
More of like the athletic shape versus hourglass.
Whereas like Venus and Moon will give you more hourglass. Sun and Mars will give you more masculine, here it is, straight up and down kind of shape. Then I don't think we touch on Saturn much. Saturn is going to cause you to not express yourself. It's saying, hey, here's your identity, just kidding, don't show it all. You know what I mean? They're just restrict, learn lessons. You have to learn lessons through how you look and how you present yourself constantly. You're learning like it's just constantly stuff is being thrown at you. But if you have like an intercepted Saturn or retrograde Saturn, lessons are going to constantly be thrown at you, but you're never going to learn them, or you're going to keep on trudging through them. You know what I mean? You have to look at how it's seen. You
also want to be put together. You want to appear older, possibly.
Be seen as a good leader. You know what I mean? Mature, wise.
Yes, mature.
Old man in a young's body. You know what that is. Old
cultured
soul.
even.
Yeah, and then Jupiter in the first house is quite the blessing. It's going to make you big, bubbly, expressive. It might make you a little bit too expressive, a little too indulgent if you have it negatively aspected.
You can have a big head.
Big body, big
head. Literally.
Or just take up a lot more space than most people.
And also just your presence.
Presence does, a bigger presence.
And just a jovial kind of nature to you.
Yeah. So now we're going to touch on if a planet is in the 12th house but conjunct your ascendant.
This is a very interesting phenomenon. And it really only is relevant to the angular houses.
I agree with that.
If a planet is in one house but it conjuncts the next house, if it's in the fifth house but it conjuncts the 6th house, it's like, whatever. At least that's our interpretation. You can talk about in the comments if you agree or disagree.
I don't pay attention to it as much unless it's like an exact almost thing, but as far as angular houses, I do see the influence. But with something in the 12th house but in the first house, it's like other people can see it and unlock it, but you have trouble seeing it and unlocking it. It's very odd, and maybe it's like that's something that you present to everybody else, but only you can get to yourself when you're in a kind of 12th house state or 12th house area alone, escaping, right? Then you can access it and you finally feel like I get to have this, right? But then you're around everybody else, you kind of naturally people see it, but it's less intentional than if it were to be in the first house conjunct. Like if you were to have Jupiter conjunct your ascendant in the first house, it'll be like, I'm putting on, like, here it is, like, da-da-da, I'm making it there. But when it's in the 12th house in conjunct, it's almost like an accidental push to it.
Yeah, this guy's so nice. Or I think even personal planets is more relevant. Like, Mercury in the 12th house conjunct the Ascendant.
You're gonna talk a lot without realizing
so smart. You're so smart. And then you feel like, I'm not very secure about my smarts. Or Venus, like, you are so beautiful. You're so beautiful. I really don't feel beautiful, but everyone tells me that I'm beautiful.
I am. I just don't know.
Especially because you'll notice when we get to our 12th house video that it's really hard to access planets in the 12th house. It's not really connected to this world.
Yeah. And the last thing that I want to say about the houses, which we just said beforehand, is that if you do not have an interception, which we have interception videos, but if you do not have an interception and you are, let's say, a Sagittarius rising, you are going to have the same right side, the same house cusp, the same house rulers as somebody else with the Sagittarius rising with no interceptions. You know, now me and Nina, we both have interceptions, but we still have some of our houses similar as a Cancer rising.
Most of them are similar.
Yeah, most of them pretty similar. But like my interception makes it so that I share half my houses with Cancer risings and half my houses with Gemini risings. If you made an Aries rising and all your houses are lined up, you have no interceptions, that means that the house rulers are the actual house rulers. Second house of Taurus is ruled by the second house of Taurus.
Yes.
You know, kind of situation. Or if you have like a Cancer rising, all of them square if you have no interceptions. Like the fourth house would be ruled by Libra, but it wants to be ruled by Cancer kind of situation.
Yeah. That's why it's especially poignant if you have a cardinal sign as your ascendant that isn't Aries. Because
they're not really, any of them are happy.
none of them are in, unless you have an interception and then by chance like, oh look, these two are happy.
Yeah.
By nature, they're
not gonna line up, not be happy.
And then that also has to do with house placements. We follow the Placidus system, so it doesn't, in the whole sign system, it's no contest, this always happens. But in the Placidus system, there's a little wiggle room. Like I am an Aquarius sun in the 8th house because I have a Cancer rising. Cancer is a cardinal sign. It squares Aries, which is the natural ruler of the 1st house. Aquarius in the 8th house is Aquarius with Scorpio energy, and those two signs square.
Because they're both fixed.
Yes. This is making no sense to you. Drink every time we plug our astrology course.
Yeah, but we'll be going through this more in our astrology course. We hope we didn't confuse you too much. We know we have a lot of information, but I think we got it all out.
Yes.
And we hope that you enjoyed our first house video. If you have any more questions, you can leave them down below.
Check out the description for links to our website and the video that explains our astrology course and everything.
Yeah, and our skit videos and our videos.
Follow us on Instagram to enter our giveaway.
Yeah, because our giveaway is still open.
Yes.
If you want to win a course.
We've had some great entries.
Yeah, they've been really fun. So thank you for everybody that's entered. And if you ordered a chart reading with us for the 2019 pre-order, we started those today, so we're getting back on it. We have quite a few though, but we were on number like 73, I think. So you can look at your
probably
number.
74.
74 maybe. That's all.
Thank you so much for watching, and bye.
Bye.